Anji, my name is Yash Gaikwad and I welcome you to this informative lecture on human capital formation. So, in the series of Indian economic development, in this new unit, we'll be studying primarily what is human capital, the factors that contribute to formation of human capital, the difference between physical capital and human capital. We'll be talking extensively about education and health and their impact on it. And we'll also be discussing the difference between physical capital and human capital, at the same time comparing the minute differences between human capital and human development. So without further ado, let us get started with our chapter. Now, before moving on to our chapter, let us understand a very simple process. That is, in order to produce anything, you need a certain amount of inputs and you need to apply certain processes to it, which will result in an output. Now, the things that enable you to gather this input and process them are nothing but factors of production. Now, as you may have already been aware about various factors of production, let me take you through a quick recap of what are the factors and what are their associated risks and rewards. The first factor that we'll be looking at is land. Land is nothing but the actual physical land that you have. Now, it could be used for various purposes. It could be used for construction of factories, or you could use the same land to extract various goods, such as natural resources like coal from it. The risk associated with land is that it is limited in nature and there are various environmental challenges with it. The reward that this factor of production reaps is in terms of the rental income or the income in form of leasing or royalty that is generated through it. The second factor is labor. Labor refers to the workers or the humans who are actually engaged in the process. This can include both your skilled laborers as well as your unskilled laborers. Now, with labor, the problem that arises is of labor disputes, because when there are two people working, the chances of conflicts are higher. There's a higher turnover rate. That means if someone is working for you in 1 year, he may leave the job and move on to some another employment. And number three is the skill gap. So does your labor force has the required skill as per the market conditions or not? The return that this labor force get is in terms of wages and salary benefits. The next is capital. It refers to the financial resources or the money that one invests into his business and in various technologies. Now, the risk associated with capital is that you may invest in a product line that either does not generate high sales, or the market is declining for that product, or due to technical improvements, your investment in technology and capital goods becomes obsolete. The reward for capital is in terms of interest or the share of in profit, which is further termed as dividends. And lastly, we look at entrepreneur. He is the person who takes the risk and starts a new business venture. The overall risk associated with an entrepreneur is limitation of his own skill and knowledge, that he may take certain decisions which are misjudging the market, which may result in long-term loss. An entrepreneur is limitation of his own skill and knowledge, that he may take certain decisions which are misjudging the market, which may result in long-term loss. The benefit that an entrepreneur gets is in terms of the profits that he makes through his business. And lastly, knowledge or the technical know-how is sometimes considered as a factor of production, which involves all the intellectual properties, all the technical process experience that you have accumulated over the years. The problem with this factor is that it may become outdated with certain time, and as new technologies and new processes and new innovations take place in the market, and the result or the reward that one reaps through it is in the overall increase in efficiency. Now, what was the need to look at the factors of production? If you look at our four primary factors, you'll find that two, labor and entrepreneur, are nothing but human beings. This is what we term as human capital formation. Before we move into this chapter, let us understand two stories, the story of Raja and the story of Babu. Let us look at the story of Raja. Raj was born in a financially well to do family. As a result, his primary health care was paid good attention to. Since young childhood, his parent ensured that he get all the proper nutrients in his diet. He gets all the vaccinations, and whenever he fall ill, he got proper treatment. As a result, he turns out to be a healthy individual. At the same time, his parent paid good attention to his education, so he studied from a good school till his class 10th. Then he moved on to choose a subject of his liking, pursue graduation and post graduation in the field that he feels his skill can contribute the most to. At the same time, with his education, he took on various internships, and then, after becoming a graduate, he applied to various job roles. Throughout his internships, he learned various skills such as problem solving and analytical skills, which helped him land a better job. This job allows him to make more money. Now, when he has this surplus of money, he gets the ability to choose whether in future he want to pursue further education and what are the new technologies in the market and innovations that he want to learn about and upskill himself. Second, he has the ability to look after his health better. That means he can afford more nutritious food, he could afford better healthcare facilities, and overall, he could choose to live in a more secure and well to do environment, which will, as a result, improve his overall quality of life. At the same time, he also puts a certain amount of money in various investments and insurance or saving for any future uncertainty that he may face. And he also has a fund which he can use in order to capitalize on any upcoming opportunities. As a result, by the time Raj goes into old age, he has a secure life since he has enough finances since he have enough finances to back him throughout his remaining life. At the same time, he is quite comfortable because he have enough finances to back him throughout his remaining life. At the same time, he is quite comfortable because one, since he's educated, he can make better decisions. And second, he lives in a better societal condition, which provide everything that he will need, thus an overall improved experience of life. Now, let us look at the life of Babu, which is at the diagonal opposite. Babu was born in a not Babu was born in a family that was not financially so well. As a result, his parents didn't pay much attention to his health care in the early age. He missed out on various essential vaccinations as a child, and whenever he got ill, his parents relied on various over the counter drugs, hoping that it will cure his illness. As a result, he grew up to be fragile and weak, plus, he didn't have sufficient nutrition in his food, which gave to further weakness and illnesses. As he moved on, he could not complete his education beyond his elementary education since he did not have the financial resources to pursue higher education, nor did his parents pay as much attention to his education. Rather, they wanted him to apply towards various jobs and earn money and become a contributor or a bread earner in the family. As a result, when he moved out to market in search of opportunities, as he was unskilled and did not had any higher educational background, he was only allowed to do manual and odd jobs. As a result, he made less money. Now, in contrast to Raj, Babu will not have any ability to pursue further education since he always has to focus on being the breadwinner of the family, and he has to spend his time, especially the day productive hours, in search of various jobs. As a result, his present condition did not improve as better high paying jobs would require him to have higher education. Mm, as his parents did not pay much health on their child, the same way Babu will not pay much attention on his health since he does not have the money to afford private health care. As a result, his overall quality of life would be deteriorating. And in terms of saving, since he's already making bare minimum, he's not having enough capital that he can invest for future opportunities or future uncertainties. And whenever anything comes across or he's out of job, he might have to rely on loan, especially from unorganized sector such as relatives and loan sharks, which will further create a burden upon him. So by the time Babu reaches the age of 60, he does not have the social and financial security and comfort that Raj has. Because number one, throughout his life, he has faced financial uncertainties. As a result, he did not have enough time to invest in his education, which would result in higher paying opportunities. Thus, he was reduced to working manual jobs which are low in terms of productivity, as a result does not pay well. Plus, as he ages, the same job would not be suitable for him, as someone younger might be required to do physically intensive tasks which his body might not support. So as he grows older and older, his productivity declines. At the same time, he does not have enough health care to support him through his old age, and he has to rely mostly on government services. Now, which of the two conditions do you think is better? Would you like to be in place of Raj, or would you like to be in place of Babu? The obvious answer is you'd like to be in place of Raj. Why? Because number one, Raj enjoys a better quality of life. Number two, he has the ability to choose and decide for himself, and he has access to various opportunities that Babu might never have. And this is what we mean when we talk about human capital formation. We want the populace to be educated, to have necessary skills so they can be productive, make higher income, and as a result, make better decisions for themselves, which improve their overall quality of life. And another thing to note is that this phenomena is cyclical. That means it passes from generation to generation to generation. As if Raj is well educated, he will choose that his children go to a better educational institution or get the education that he got at, and ensure that his children are healthy. As a result, they will have better opportunities in their way when they grow up, and the same cycle continues. Now, let us begin with our chapter, that is human capital formation. In this unit, the very first picture that you see are of two. In this unit, the very first picture that you see are of two farmers where one is complaining that why the other farmer is able to produce better results than him. And the obvious answer is in the picture behind him, that the second farmer uses various technologies which help him produce better outputs. And how does he get access to this new technologies because he is well aware about the developments in the market what kind of seeds he should use, what sort of machinery he would be required, and what sort of additional inputs like fertilizers he can use, which will result in an overall better output, which the second farmer is not aware about, thus creating a vast difference in the overall productivity of both. But how does he come to know of such information? This is because human capital formation is a long process in which you require various teachers who could transmit the knowledge that and know-how they have acquired throughout their life to a student who could further, through his analysis, develop an understanding which will help him make better decisions in future. So number one, what we have understood is that human capital formation is not like physical capital formation where you have physical goods and services, but rather it is an intellectual process and is intangible in nature. Now, what would be the effect of human capital formation? It will, number one, obviously result in higher levels of income, but at the same time, it would also result in various other factors, such as number one, it will improve the overall quality of decisions a person make. Number two, if you make more money, you will have access to better healthcare. Number three, it will improve your social standing amongst your peers, so you can have more respect in this society, your social standing amongst your peers, so you can have more respect in this society. At the same time, it will equip you with the knowledge to understand various changes that are taking place in real time. Now, what is human capital, you ask? Human capital is the skills, knowledge, and technical know how that a person knows, which helps him improve his productivity. Now, in order to create this human capital, we already need an existing structure and infrastructure that comprises of various human resources, such as teachers and people who are equipped with that knowledge, which they can share and pass on. So, in order to generate good human capital, we need other inputs such as teachers, farmers, nurses, doctors, and engineers who could. So, what we can understand is that this means that we need to invest in human capital to produce more human capital. In this chapter, we'll be understanding what are the sources for human capital formation, the relationship between human capital and economic growth. Next, we'll be looking at human development, which is a term that is sounding similar to human capital, but there's a tiny difference to it. And we'll also be looking at the role of government. Now, let us look at the sources of human capital formation. If you talk widely, the sources can be the following. Number one is health. So, if a person is in good condition, physically and mentally, he'll be able to give his 100% on the job at hand, and thus his productivity would be much better. Whereas if the same person is undergoing through some sort of illness, he would be mentally absent, he would be reluctant to try on new things or work longer hours. As a result, his overall output will deteriorate. So we'll be looking at how health contributes in formation of human capital. Second is education, because education gives you access to, number one, it equips you with better skills. Number two, it allows you to use new technologies which increase your overall productivity levels. And number three, having good education means having more access to opportunities which allows you better future prospects. Next, we'll be looking at migration. That is when people move from one location to another location in search of better opportunities and its effect. Now, let's say a person is healthy, he has good education, and he is in a place that provide ample of opportunities to him. Can he straight away be more productive? The answer is no. He will still require a certain amount of training. So we'll be looking at the importance of on-job training, as the education that one acquires is mostly inclined towards theoretical prospect. So we need to teach people how to apply them in real life. So that is what we'll be covering in the training section. And the information part, that is, what if one is not aware about the various opportunities that out there. So you might one is not aware about the various opportunities that out there. So you might be skilled, you might be healthy, you might have all the technical know-how, and you might be well trained, but what if you don't know where to apply for a job? That is a case of misinformation, or rather the absence of information. So one need to also be aware that what is the section that would be perfect for him, where he can contribute the most using his existing skill and knowledge. Now, let us talk about health. Now, medicine can be classified in three broad aspects. That is, number one, preventive healthcare. This is in order to ensure that one lives a healthy lifestyle by providing him vaccinations at very early stage, so in future he does not suffer from any severe illness. The second is curative healthcare, which focuses on treatment and care. In so where one suffers from an illness, the care facility and the treatment he will get through medical professionals fall under this category. And number three is social medication, where you try to make a person more informed regarding various vaccinations and preventive medication and do's and don'ts in order to improve their healthcare. For example, there are various education drives such as polio awareness camps, where people are educated that how a simple vaccination can help prevent a major disease. As we are entering into monsoons now, the awareness camp of how people should prevent any sort of water logging on various tires and equipments and at places near their house, because it will essentially become a breeding ground for mosquitoes, which will further spread various diseases such as malaria and dengue. So by preventing any for sense by preventing any water logging, what one is doing is essentially ensuring his safety from such diseases. So that is what falls under social awareness. Let's look at migration. Migration is when one person moves from one location to another location in search of better opportunities. Now, these opportunities can be both for the purpose of education or for the purpose of employment. Now, when one moves from one location to another, there is certain cost involved. Cost such as finding shelter, the cost that you'll be spending on your food, the cost that these are financial costs that you can actually measure, but there are also cultural and intangible costs such as the time you will take to adjust into a new culture. You'll have to adjust your mindset according to how people behave in this new city, and you'll have to adjust yourself and to the ways of this new place that you have migrated into it. Now, if you compare the overall cost of migration to the benefits, you will always find that the benefits outweigh the cost, because the cost, let's face it, are transient in nature. So, if you're moving into a new city, it might take you a month or two to adjust to it. But once you have settled down in that city, the cost ends there. The overall access to opportunities that you get in that city will keep on coming again and again for future time. Hence, it is overall a net positive situation. Next is information. It When we talk about information, we talk about the right knowledge. When we talk about information, we talk about being aware about the opportunities that one can monetize upon. That is providing the right type of employable skills and at a relevant cost. Now, information is necessary. Let's say you want to pursue education. So, what course should you enroll into? What is the total duration of time you'll be investing in it? What is the total ROI that one can expect? That how much would you earn after completing that particular course? Or what is the current job market scenario? Is this a profession that is going to bloom in future, or is this a profession that is slowly dying down? So that is the information which plays a crucial part. So if you are more aware as to various market trends, you'll be able to make better decisions. Now, before we move ahead, let us understand the differences between physical capital and human capital. Now, when we talk about physical capital, we mostly talk about things that are tangible in nature, that you can touch, feel, and hold. For example, this microphone right in front of me. This is an example of physical capital, a good that I can actually hold. But when I talk about human capital, it is the skill set and the technical know-how that is intangible. So let's say I'm teaching. So whatever the skills that I have to communicate, the knowledge that I have to you, that is an intangible skill, and that constitute human capital. So let us try to understand their differences on following factors. Number one, transferability. So human capital can not be transferred so easily. Let's say I have a certain amount of knowledge that I have gathered, or let us simplify it. Let us take an example of a bus and a bus driver. So a bus is a physical asset. It can be transferred. So a bus owner can actually sell his asset to another person, thereby resulting in a transfer of an asset. But a bus driver who has the skill set of driving a bus cannot transfer this skill set to another person. What he can do is he can go and work for another person, but the skill is still attached to this service provider. So, in that sense, we can say that physical capital is easily transferable, whereas human capital is not so easily transferable, as the service provider and the service are interlinked. Now, let us look at the decision. So, the decision to invest in physical capital is a conscious decision, as before investing in any equipment, any technology, or any sort of physical asset, you calculate the return on it. Let's say if I'm buying this particular laptop, so what would be the overall output that I would be able to generate through it? How much money I'd be able to make it out of it. What are various alternative machineries available in the market? You take all those factors in mind and then you make a decision. So it involves a certain amount of thinking, and hence it is a conscious effort. Whereas human capital formation is only a partly conscious effort, since like what education institution I would go and complete my elementary education from, I had no role to play into it since I was a child, and my parents would decide which school I would go to. Hence, it is partly a conscious decision since there is someone who is thinking about these factors that are being my parents, and partly it is a not so conscious decision because I have no say into it. At the same time, this decision is also affected by various social and cultural factors in the society that one is born into. Let's talk about mobility. Can a physical capital move from one place to another? Can the ownership be transferred? The answer is yes. Can it happen in case of human capital? The answer is no. So human capital, let's say a person has invested in his education, so the knowledge he has gained remains with him. He can apply it, but he cannot transfer that knowledge to another person. And depletion. So physical capital gets depreciated. That is the overall. value of a physical asset declines over a period of time due to various factors such as technological upgradation, and it cannot be slowed down. Whereas we look about human capital also depreciate with time, but the difference in human capital is that the process can be slowed down with two improvements. Number one, if one takes care of one's health, the process of depletion can be slowed down. And number two, if one focuses on continuous education and learning, so he will not get his skill set will not get obsolete, rather his knowledge will always be up to what the job market demands. So the process of depletion of human capital can be slowed down and restricted. That is what is being given here. That is, let us have an overlook. Number one, that is physical capital is based upon investment, whereas the human capital is based upon. Now, this is what has been given here in the differences between physical and human capital, which we have already discussed. The important point to note over here would be that physical capital is tangible, whereas human capital is intangible, and the process of human capital formation is partly a social process and partly a conscious decision, as we have seen that at times the decisions maker and the person who will ultimately reap the benefit of this decision are two different entities. In case of educating a child, the parents are the decision maker and the child is the one who will reap the benefits. So that is how it is partly a conscious decision. Now, this is the most important thing, that the difference between physical capital and human capital is that the benefit of physical capital are restricted. So if I am employing a physical capital, the benefits generated would be enjoyed by me only. That is, the benefit are accruing to a private party only. However, if I'm investing in human capital, the benefits will be enjoyed by me, plus at the same time it will be enjoyed by society at large. Let us try to understand this through a cost benefit analysis. So, as you know, cost is the now let us try to understand it through a cost benefit analysis. Cost is the amount of expenditure that one pays for any good or services. Now, the this expense can be divided in two parts. Number one is the private expense, that is the monetary amount that I as an individual will be paying. And number two is the cost that is borne by the society. That is, if I'm enjoying a certain good or a service, what will be the overall cost that will not be paid by me, but would be over and beyond the amount that I pay and would be compensated by society at large. An example could be, let's say I buy a nice fancy sound system. So when I buy that sound system, the monetary amount that I'm paying in exchange for that good, that is the boom box, would be the private cost that I have paid. Now, if I use that same sound system to play loud music, especially at late at night, the noise pollution that would be caused by it is the societal cost, or the disturbance it would cause to my neighbors in enjoying their peace is the social cost. At the same time, let us look at the benefit. Benefit are nothing but what you get in return, or the value additions. Again, this can be classified into private benefit and social benefit. Private benefits are the benefits that are owned and enjoyed by the person who is bearing the cost for such goods. Let us take example of education. So if I want to enroll into a good academy, the benefits that will be reaped out of would be: number one, I'll be better skilled, hence I'll be able to apply for better jobs, hence I'll be able to make good amount of money. So this money that comes in is a private benefit that I will enjoy. However, there is a benefit to society at large, that is the social benefit. So since I'm well educated, I will try to act as a responsible citizen. That means I will pay my taxes on time. I will follow all the necessary safety rules and regulations. I will not create any sort of chaos in the society or maintain proper sanitation in areas around me. And I would, since I'm more skilled, I'm earning more money. As a result, the overall aggregate output of the economy is improving due to improvement in my individual productivity, thus resulting in better economic growth. And an educated person is more likely to be more flexible and sensitive to cultural and social changes. So I will be more flexible when a new generation comes, and I would be able to mentor them better. And in this process, I'll be able to help create better future human resources. So the overall benefit of me being educated affects society at large. That is the social benefit that is drawn from it. And when we talk about physical goods, like here, or the physical capital formation, you will find that the physical capital would generate private benefits, but they not necessarily result in any sort of social benefit. However, the human capital formation is a process that will not only result in private benefit, but will result in far larger social benefits. This is what is being said here, that human capital contributes to economic growth. Human economic growth means increase in real national income of a country. Now, what does national income means? National income is simply a way of finding the value of goods and services that has been produced in a country in a given period of time. And when you use the term real, it means that that value is adjusted as per the inflation rates. Now let us understand that why is this a statement given? Why would an improvement in human capital result in an overall increased productivity? Anji, now let us try to recall the story of Raj, where we have learned that if a person is well and he is healthy, he'll be able to work more efficiently. Anji, now let us try to recall the story of Raj, where we have learned that if a person is well and he is healthy, he'll be able to work more efficiently since there is nothing holding him back from contributing his 100% both physically and mentally on his job. Number two, if he is well educated and he has in the sufficient information about various opportunities and skill sets and the market conditions, he'll be able to upskill himself and thereby increase his value in the market, at the same time earning higher salaries, providing better quality of services. Thus, he'll be making more money, and at the same time, the result would result in an overall increase in the productivity of this person. So, as a result, when the productivity of an individual increases, he will generate more output, and it may also happen that he may also start his own venture. So, rather than a job seeker, he can also become a job creator, thereby providing employment to more people. As a result of investment in human capital of an individual, it results in increased productivity, and overall it is reflected in the improvement in GDP or the overall production. That is what is being said here, that economic growth is related to human capital formation. But there is a slight caveat to it, that it is difficult to estimate that how much of economic growth can be related to human capital formation, since the improvement in quantity does not necessarily reflect the improvement in quality. So let us understand it by an example. Let's take the example of enrollments in a school. So although various sectors and various people who live below poverty line could not afford to spend much on their education. So government has started providing schooling and especially elementary schooling free of cost to such people. Over the years, the overall enrollment in these schools have increased tremendously. But does that necessarily means that this improvement will result in an increased productivity in years to come ahead? The answer is no, because although we have seen that the enrollments have increased, but there is no standard way of measuring that what is the quality of education that these children are getting, and are they necessarily equipped with the right kind of skill set and knowledge that the market requires at that particular point of time. So that is one caveat, that we cannot necessarily conclude that an increase in quantity always is reflected in an increase in quality. That is the same thing being said over here, that the empirical evidence to provide that increase in human capital causes economic growth is rather nebulous. But however, we can conclude that although the results may not be immediate, but we should always strive to invest in better human capital, because it will, number one, increase the productivity. It would allow us to access new technologies. It will foster new innovations, which would result in better utilization of our resources, which is the primary objective of studying this whole subject of economics, and allow us to make better decisions and thereby add in advancement to the overall quality of life that one enjoys. And this is why we'll be studying the topic of human development, that should one invest in human skill set even though the productivity does not improve. That is what we'll be answering in the section where we talk about human development. Now, you have seen that human capital formation is a long term process where one has to go through, let's say, elementary education, then higher. Now, you have seen that human capital formation is a long term process where one has to go through, let's say, elementary education, then higher education, then he has to pursue various internships and has to acquire various skill sets, and then he can be considered as a resource. So it is a long term process, and the results are not reflected immediately. And it is the case in both developed countries as well as the developing countries. That is why it is being said here that the measure of human capital, but no significant coverage of per capital real income. That is, that there is no direct correlation that if you improve human capital by this percentage, this much real income will increase. Now there is a term used here, per capita. So whenever you come across this term in economics, per capita, that means that whatever there is a total which we are dividing by the total population that we have, which in Hindi would be called as prati vyakti. That is how much would come at per individual or per head. So here we are talking about per capital income. So it will be calculated as the total national income or the total income generated in a country divided by the total population. Hence, we'll get the per capital income. Coming back to our chapter, we have seen that human capital is essential because having good human capital will result in increased in productivity, that is for sure. And that is what the government has also identified. As a result, our seventh fifth year plan was focused on human development, on developing human resources. As India has a large population, a developed human resource can act as an asset that will accelerate its economic growth. But at the same time, this population, if not treated properly, could also become a big burden to the Indian economy. Let us see how. N- Now, there are two case scenarios. Number one is where the population is provided both education and healthcare facilities. As a result, they will be more productive and they will contribute to economic growth of the nation. As they are earning more, they have better decision making skills, they'll be more conscious contributors to the society. As a result, the overall quality of life for the society at large will improve. But if this situation is opposite, that is, this population neither gets the right education or does not get proper health care, they will number one have low skill sets. They would have limited earning potential since the odd jobs and unskilled jobs provide very little amount of money that can be made, and they will also have to face the problem of unemployment, thereby contributing little to economic growth. But still they will have to eat, they have to look after their health, and they will as a result rely on various government aids for even the basic of human needs. As a result, the overall quality or the level of enjoyment they have of their life will decrease, and this population that could have been the backbone of economic growth in the country has now become a big burden which on the government, and as a result, instead of earning surplus production by this population, what government would have to do is to increase its expenditure on providing various basic services which this populace could have easily taken by increasing their income potential, but which is not the case here. So, this is how the population can tilt in both the directions. This is a general table where we will see that though the effect of investment in human capital has shaped India so far. Number one, the real per capita income, that is the inflation adjusted income that an individual earns in in a society. And again, this is a notional figure. That is the total amount of income generated in the country divided by the total population. So the per head income that we are taking on an average, which was 7,651 in the year 1951, has increased to 77,651 in the year 2016 and 17. And you will see that the overall income levels on per capita basis has increased. The crude death rate, that is per thousand population, how many people die due to improper health care and unavailability of treatment, has over the years gradually declined from 25.1 to 6.3. At the same time, the infant mortality rate has gone down from a terrible number of 146 to 33, and the birth expectancy or and the life expectancy, that is the number of years an individual is expected to live at the time of his birth, has also improved. In case of males, it has improved from 37.2% to 67% to 60, sorry, it's not percent, to 6, from 37.2 years to 67 years of age. In case of females, it has improved from 36.2 years in age in year 1951 to 70 year of age in 2016 70. And the overall literacy rate, that is the percentage of people in the population that are able to read and write, has improved drastically from 16.67 percentage in 1951 to 76 percentage in 2016-17, and has improved over the year. Now, this growth is in a positive trend overall, but has remained a bit inconsistent. And the reason is the investment in health and education sector that we'll be looking in detail now. Now, let us talk about the education sector. Let us have an overview. Then we'll be talking about the term that I am sure you must be waiting for, that is the human development and human capital. Or is it even worth investing in human capital if the ROI is not immediate? So let us first start with the state of education for the future as of now. So the new education policy that is introduced in year 2020 focuses more on the STEM field, that is science, technology, mathematics, and focuses on the rising areas such as big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence. And the key idea is to make sure that the new workforce is better skilled to tackle challenges of the IT world that it has to face. The constant improvement in technology could result in better utilization of resources, at the same time improved productivity. At the same time, we are also not neglecting the social aspect or the environmental aspect to it. We also want our workforce to be more culturally, socially, and environmentally aware, as since in 2024 you have seen that the global temperature is rising at a rampant rate. The pollution is a major challenge in almost all the metro cities, and population control, especially in India, and waste management and city planning are some of the crucial challenges that India faces, and especially in monsoon and rain, waterlogging and is a major and flooding is a major scenario that you will see in cities. So you have to be aware about how we can tackle these challenges as well. So the new education policy aims at equipping the disciples with the appropriate knowledge so they can face various climate change and environmental issues such as depletion of natural resources and come up with better solutions to that. At the same time, in the field of health, various diseases and pandemics have came over the years. So we also want to invest in proper research and preventive medication so such epidemics can be faced better. Now, the goal with the new economic policy is to make India a knowledge oriented economy. That means that we want to become a soft power when it comes to various technologies, innovation, and technical know how. An example of this is the software industry in India, which is helping India become more reliable in its IT infrastructure and governance. Now, I was very surprised to see that you'll find that older people are usually not so well equipped when it comes to various technologies, and net banking was a big challenge. That if there is an elderly person, how will you teach them what net banking is and how you can transfer funds electronically? But recently, what I have observed is that even people who are not educated beyond elementary level are very comfortable in online transactions via UPI or opening their online accounts such as Demat account and bank accounts through eKYC processes. Now, this is possible only due to the good infrastructure network that India has in terms of its software and technology. So you will find that even a small vendor who is selling fruits or vegetables nowadays uses a UPI payment or an online payment mechanism for even a small amount of 10 rupee, which was something that couldn't have been imagined 5 or 10 years ago. So that is an example that how rampant innovation can redefine the existing structure in a society. Now let us move to the big question, that is what is human capital versus what is human development. So if you look at the chart behind me, you will see that the human capital is a subpart to a larger narrative, that is human development. When we talk about human capital formation, we are talking it talking through a perspective of ROI. That is, the ultimate goal of human capital formation is to increase the overall productivity, thereby increase the overall income generation and the overall improvement in the GDP. So, human capital formation is a little narrow minded as it focuses only on one aspect, that is, improving the overall productivity. However, when we talk about human development, it's a much more wider concept since it focuses on developing the overall quality of life that one enjoys. So, human development would negate would not pay as much attention to the overall ROI in terms of the increased productivity in the short run, but rather look at the overall development or the overall improvement in quality of life that could be generated. Investment in education from a human capital formation point of view is only relevant if it results in employment and in high paying jobs. Whereas, from an human development perspective, investment in education will always be profitable since it may not result in employment, but it will, at the end of the day, create more responsible citizens who will be better informed to take better decisions and thereby contribute to society. Hence, human development is a much larger narrative. This is Let us have a quick recap. Here, everything in green is what we'll be talking about human capital, and everything in blue is what we'll be talking about human development. So, human capital focuses on productivity, whereas human development focuses on overall well being, health, and education. Now, the objective of human development is to enable people to make better decisions, whereas the overall objective of human capital formation is to achieve an end goal, and the end goal being productivity. In case the outcome is not productive, it is not fruitful for human capital. In case of human development, the end is the process in itself, because the process in itself because the investment, even if it does not result in high labor productivity, is irrelevant because it will result in overall improvement in decision making and quality of life. As a result, the human development emphasizes that everyone should get access to education and healthcare as a fundamental right. An example of this is the Right to Information Act 2009 that was introduced by the government to ensure that any child between the age of 6 to 14 years of age gets the opportunity to complete his elementary education free of cost in a ed- government school if he does not have the sufficient resources to enroll into a private uh, institution. At the same time, another initiative by Government of India is Ayushman Card. It is a card that enables a person to get free of cost treatment for various illnesses at both the private and public hospitals, and the cost for such treatment to a certain level will be borne by the government itself. Now let us look at the state of human capital formation in India. Now, as you have seen, that human capital formation is a result of various factors such as education, health, migration, information, and training. This could broadly be understood at how much the government is actively involved in this process. Now, as India has a three-tier system of governance, that is, at center, you have the central government that makes policies for the whole nation as a single entity. Then you have state governments which make policies for the boundaries of that particular state and the needs, catering to the needs of that particular geographical location. And at a very micro level, you have various local bodies and such as municipal corporations and panchayats which make policies for the local area. Let us understand the impact that it has created on education and health. Now, Now we have seen that private sector usually operates for one purpose, that is earning profit, and they will only provide services when it is profitable to them. As a result, government has to play an active part in ensuring that various services are provided even to people who cannot afford them. As a result, the role of government is to provide various services to members of the society who cannot afford them and pay for them. At the same time, it is to ensure that there is no exploitative practices in the market, or there is no monopoly when it comes to health and education sector. Thus, the overall aim of government in this sector is to ensure that there is quality healthcare and education that being provided at affordable cost. Now, in order to ensure that there is proper level or proper quality of education provided, there are certain institutions that are formed in India. First being the National Council of Education Research and Training, popularly known as NCRT. Now, NCRT designs various textbooks and curriculums that is to be taught at various schools, both private and government, and it provides the guideline as to what is the necessary knowledge or the skill set that a child must have at a particular level of his education. Now, NCRT is primarily concerned with the elementary or the higher secondary education till class 12. Beyond class 12, there is University Grant Commission, which decides ranking for various universities and institutions, ranking them as A, B, A++. Now, the motive of University Grant Commission is to number one, ensure that the higher education is uniform and is regulated under an official umbrella. Number two, rank them the institutes on the quality of education they provide, so that the student who is enrolling into such university can decide whether or not he should join up with this particular institute based on their ranking, or should choose a better university. The third is the All India Council of Technical Education, AICTE, which facilitates development of various skill sets such as learning computer skills in the youth. Further, we also have a dedicated Ministry of Health which run various programs in order to increase the general awareness among the people, at the same time ensuring that we are equipped to deal with any disaster that might affect human health, such as pollution or change in climatic conditions or an epidemic per se. Another example is an organization like National Medical Commission and Indian Council of Medical Research ICMR, which time to time gives guidelines for various medical professionals and also provides awareness to general population regarding changes in the health sector. Now, since we have seen that how a population can become both an asset and a burden on an economy, so in a country like India, where a majority of its population is below poverty line, access to such infrastructure for education and health becomes even more crucial. And let us start analyzing them by the investment in education sector. So the investment or the amount that the government spends on education sector can broadly be understood in two terms. That is, number one, the percentage of money they spend on education as a percentage of the total expense. That is, if there is an X amount of money that government plans to spend in this financial year, what is the percentage of that X amount that would be allocated towards health specifically? That is one way of looking at it. And the second is the percentage of GDP. That is, the out of the total value creation in the economy, how much of that value creation has been in the sector of education and healthcare. So when we talk about as a percentage expenditure in terms of GDP, we are looking at the amount that people choose to spend of their income on education. Here are few statistics that are being given. That number one, during 1952 to 2004, the expenditure on education as a percentage of government's expenditure has grown from 7.29 percentage to 15.7%. However, when we look at it from the perspective of as a percentage of GDP, it has increased from 0.6% to 4.3%. Now, something to note over here is that even though it has increased from 0.6% to 4.13%, it is still considerably very low, since various scholars believe that this number needs to be very competitive with the global economy, and as various developed nations spend more money as a percentage of their GDP on education in order to develop better human resources. So India should follow the same. And this number should go as high as 6%, which is what the current regime is aiming at. Now, although this we have seen that the time frame we are looking at is from 1952 to 2014, and the improvement has been of roughly 3.5% or so, but it has not been uniform, it has been irregular. Now, the reason for this is that the government paid less attention towards education sector because number one, the investment is upfront in building the infrastructure, but the results that it will reap are on a much larger time horizon. So the government obviously chooses to prioritize investment in physical capital over human capital, as the results will be reaped in shorter time period. So that is the reason that education and health was neglected. Now we have seen that the education can be at primary level. Now we have seen that the education can be at primary level, where till class 10th or 12th you are educated, and then there is the higher or tertiary learning that happens in colleges and universities. So you will find over here that number one, that the government expenditure in elementary education has increased. However, the government education in at the university level is not increasing as much as one would expect it to. Rather, it is declining as government is shutting down or diverting its expenditure from higher education to other projects. At the same time, the amount of money that is being diverted from higher education is not flowing towards primarily education, but rather towards other projects. Now, let us also look at an infographic that why expenditure in education is related to migration. So in 2014-15, the per capita, that is per person expenditure on public education in elementary school in the state of Himachal Pradesh was around 34,651, whereas it was very low at 4,088 rupees in Bihar. Now, as a result, if the population in Bihar is not getting adequate education, it will not be highly productive, and it will not be able to generate any manufacturing units, or let's say they will always be job seekers rather than job creators. As a result, the population will move towards different states and metro cities where the expenditure on education is higher, because in those places the human capital would be more productive. As a result, they will turn into job creators seeking more goods and services, as a result creating employment. Now here is the discussion of various education committees. So, the Education Commission, formed in 1964 to 1966, held that India should spend at least 6% of its GDP on education. But sadly, we do not do that, as we have already seen that the current expenditure in 2014 was roughly around 4%. And had India started implementing this process of spending at least 6% on its education, the conditions would have looked much more different today. The Tapas Majumdar Committee, appointed in the year 1999, also estimated that the overall expenditure of 1.37 lakh crores is what government would need to do over a period of 10 years from 1998 to 1999 to from a time period of 1998 to 2007 to bring every child under the age of 16 to 14 under compulsory education, that is in under the purview of primary education. Plus the 6% level, as we have already discussed, is still not achieved. And in 2000, when we are talking about the year 2014, and in 2009, in order to achieve this goal, the government brought Child Education Act, which makes education as a fundamental right, and no child can be denied of education when he is between the age groups of 6 to 14 and he can enroll into government schools. Plus, government has also started levying a 2% cess in the name of health and education cess. So again, cess, a new term over here. Let us understand what it means. So the government earns revenue. The or a generic term we can use is income. A source of this income is taxes. Now, these taxes are nothing but the funds that government collect and rather reallocate it in its budget to be spent on various purposes. So, tax is a fund that is general purpose. So if government collects a certain X amount of tax in a year, it can choose to spend it on education, it can choose to spend it on healthcare, it can choose to spend it on various infrastructural projects such as a road, railway, or it can choose to spend it on administrative activities such as running government offices and so on. But a cess differs here, since a cess is not a tax but a tax that is charged on tax. So a cess is a tax on tax. A tax is a tax on an event. So let's say income tax. So income tax is a tax on income, whereas cess is a tax on that is accrued on such amount of income tax. So let's say a person is earning an X amount and he is paying Y amount in taxes. So a tax will not be charged on this, a cess will not be charged on this X amount, rather it will be charged as a percentage on this Y amount. And this cess is for a specific reason, that is health and education. That means this money that is collected will only be spent on health or education purposes. Currently, the rate of this cess is at 4%. This is a table that shows the overall state of education in India. Something that you'll notice that from 2019 to 2018, that the overall adult literacy rate among male female, the primary completion rate, that is the number of students that are completing their primary education both in male and female, and the youth literacy rate, that is the people between the age group of 15 to 24 who are literate in case of male and female, have improved and has gone up. But the interesting thing to note over here is that though the rates in terms of male population was obviously going up, as the society anyhow favors educating male child over female child, but this has been a result of conscious effort, that in case of female education, this number have also grown up substantially to a point where the difference between the education in terms of male or female is very narrowed. As you can see, the youth literacy rate does not vary by much in case of two genders. Similar is the case in case of primary education completion, but something where or an area where we need to work is in case of higher education. So you will find that although females are contributing equally in terms of their number in when it comes to primary education, but the number seems to get reduced when they enter for university level education. So that is an area that requires improvement. And also government has started various schemes where it provides financial assistance to young population so they can pursue their higher education. Now the same is being noted here that in the constitution. Now, the same is being noted here that in the Constituent Assembly, it was discussed that as a directive principle of the Indian Constitution, it should be enclosed that after the Constitution comes in effect, in 10 years, it should be mandated that education, the right to education, becomes a fundamental part or a fundamental right to every citizen in the country. However, it took a little longer than that since it was officiated by the Right to Education Act in the year 2009. And as we have seen, that there is also a disparity when it comes to gender. So, as per a data published by NSSO in the year 2011-12, you'll see that the number of unemployed who are graduate in rural and urban areas in case of male population is 19% in rural area and in case of urban area is 16%. At the same time, in case of rural area, this percentage is 30%. But now let us look at the people who have only completed their primary education and are unemployed. So this percentage falls at roughly 3 to 6%. Now, why is there such a startling difference where we have clearly seen that more education results in better earning opportunities? So one would expect that graduates to be more employed and people with primary education to face the problem of unemployment more. But the situation over here is reverse. The reason for this is that if a person is well educated, he will seek better quality of employment. Let us take an example. For example, I like to drive. So, will I take up the job of a chauffeur or will I become a driver? The answer is obviously no, because I have invested years in my primary education, then I have gone to a college to pursue a degree, I have done internships. So, now I will obviously be seeking a blue collar job. I will not be seeking a blue collar job, rather, I will be seeking a white collar job in the industries of, say, finance and economics that I feel would utilize my talents better. So as a result, I would neglect to any sort of manual jobs, whereas a person who has not gone for such higher education may not have the same preference and he may still go for a low paying manual job. As a result, the unemployment rate in case of people with primary education is lower. But again, be aware that this low unemployment rate does not necessarily means good working conditions or higher salaries or higher level of productivity. And again, we have seen that the overall ratio between men and women in terms of education in figures over here has reduced and the difference has narrowed down. This is due to various changes in terms of the societal mindset and cultural changes that are taking place, where educating a girl child is also becoming equally important. And as a result, it has favorably impacted the female fertility rate, the overall condition of healthcare for children and women has also improved over the years. And we can conclude now that number one, human capital formation is an integral part for creating better population and turning it into an asset for any developing economy. And it also results in overall increased productivity. So let us have a quick Okay, so let us have a quick recap of what we have learned so far. Number one, we have learned that human capital formation is an intangible process which requires updation of skills, knowledge, experience, and various attributes that an individual embodies in order to create value in an economy. We have also understood that there's a difference between physical capital and human capital, that unlike physical capital, human capital is intangible and it's not so easily transferable. We have learned the importance of education, that more education equals better skills, equals high paying jobs, equals improved productivity, equals economic growth. Then we have seen some other benefits of education, that is increased earning potential, better social standing and pride. That means if you are educated, say you are a doctor, it gives a better impression in society when you introduce yourself as a professional, and at the same time, it people give you a certain amount of respect. Education helps you make better decisions, thus improving your choices in life. It gives you the ability to understand the societal changes better. It allows you to innovate, thereby improving your efficiency. At the same time, it makes you more adaptable to adapt to new technologies. Now we have seen the sources of human capital formation. First was education, both at primary level and at higher level, and the specialization and the need for investment in education. The second thing that we have studied is the situation of healthcare, that why nutrition and expenditure on healthcare is important, as a healthy person is likely to outperform an ill person. As we move on, we have also studied the importance of on-job training. Now, if a person is healthy and is educated, has a level of education, he is more inclined to know things, but he still has a gap between knowing and implementing. So that is in order to bridge that gap and make sure that the learning curve is shortened, training is required. So the overall wastage in the process can be reduced. This is done through either on job training, where a person can join a job and at the beginning he is trained while he's at the job, or he could be sent offshores or away from the job site to get trained and then join the job. Also, we have seen the effect of migration, that how the overall cost benefit analysis, where we have seen the benefit of migration outweighs the cost and often lead to developed skills, knowledge, and higher earning potentials. We have also seen the importance of being aware, or the importance of information that one needs to have in order to make better decisions, and how crucial it is to be aware of various opportunities and alternatives that one might have. Later, we have studied the differences between human capital and physical capital, primarily being physical capital is tangible, human capital is intangible. The physical capital is completely mobile, whereas human capital is not so easily mobile and transferable, and it depends on the social and cultural factors. The depletion of physical capital is not something that can be controlled, but in case of human capital, it can be reduced or slowed down substantially by continuous investment in health and learning and educating oneself as the time and technology changes. Later, we have seen that the human capital formation process differs from human development process, where human development is a larger narrative which focuses not only increased productivity but in the overall improvement in quality of life. Later, we have seen that human capital formation also contribute in national income as the overall productivity levels improve, resulting in better employment and overall increase in national income. A better human being who is more equipped is also likely to reduce the costage and the repetitive task by using new technologies. Thus, he will promote new innovations. So, we have seen that how this process also aids in innovation. Later, we have seen that although there is no empirical evidence to show a direct correlation, but the overall conclusion can be drawn that there is a positive correlation in the long run when one invests in human capital. The effect can be seen in long run growth of the economy. And we have also seen the improvement in terms of contribution to GDP. We have discussed the role of government in policy framing and programs and how it can implement its them in order to improve the overall state of education and health in the country. And we have also seen various key aspects of national economic policy in India. Later, we have also we have seen that the India is aspiring to become a knowledge oriented economy, and in order to do so, it is very crucial for us to turn our huge population into a backbone or an asset that will help us realize this dream, and the necessary inputs that are required to build such asset is through developing human capital. And an example of software industry in India is what we have seen. Then we have looked at various numbers in case of the increase in per capita income, the decline in crude death rate, the decline in infant mortality rate, the overall improvement in literacy rates, and the overall increase in life expectancy at birth, which has improved from 37% in 1951 to 67% in to sorry, it's not percent to its years from 37.2 years in 1951 to 67 years for female in 2017 and 70 years for males. So you can see that there's direct correlation between investment in health and education to overall development in the quality of life that one enjoys, whether it is resulting immediate productive gains or not. And that was all from my side. If you have any doubts, queries, or any in the quality of life that one enjoys, whether it is resulting immediate productive gains or not. And that was all from my side. If you have any doubts, queries, or any review or feedback, please do let me know in the comment sections down below. Thank you.